What is up, my friends? You are very welcome along to Wednesday evening's Anfield Agenda news roundup. I'm going to try and pick the bones out of last night's result against Galatasaray. We're going to give you some of the numbers around Arne Slot's Liverpool tenure. We're going to tell you who the Reds have made the most lucrative contract offer to today, as well as lots of other bits and pieces, including some news around Alisson Becker and a couple of other bits of transfer gossip. We do want to know your thoughts though, so feel free to let me know in the comment section. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and of course I will see you guys tonight at 9 p.m. for the late night agenda. Gonna let you all get the first half of the Champions League games safely tucked away, and then we'll be on at 9 o'clock to run through all of these stories and more in greater detail. Until then, let's get cracking with the video. So, Arne Slot, his Liverpool tenure. We had James Pearce last night posting to say how he's equalled Sir Kenny Dalglish from the first 100 games as Liverpool manager for the most win percentage. Well, let's look at those numbers, shall we? He has 100 games now in charge of Liverpool Football Club. Let's break them down into two different 50-game segments. So the first 50 games, very impressive. 36 wins, 7 defeats, 7 draws. That's absolutely fine. But the difference comes when we look at the last 50 games. 26 wins, 16 defeats and 8 draws. So as you can see there, very different set of numbers. So trying to compare him to Kenny Dalglish, I think is, well, in one way it is fair, but in another way it hides the real context of where we are with Arne Slot's tenure, and it is going backwards. So we talked about the most lucrative contract offer tabled yet from the Reds. Who was that to? It is, of course, to Ibrahima Konate. Caught Offside have said that Liverpool have tabled their most lucrative contract offer yet to Ibrahima Konate in a bid to prevent the defender leaving on a free this summer. Inter, Paris Saint-Germain and Real Madrid are all monitoring the situation closely. So what happens here? We still don't know. He has played very well up until last night. Himself and Virgil were all over the place against Galatasaray. But I still would prefer Ibrahima Konate to stay. The club, though, they can't let this go on much longer. If they can find a breakthrough with Ibu, then they're going to have to start looking around at other centre-back options, because they might have to admit defeat. And again, it's going to be a shortened summer, so any transfer activity we do have to have needs to be worked on as quickly as possible. Now, let's hear from our captain, Virgil van Dijk, after last night's game, and he was pretty scathing in his comments. He said, I feel we didn't give away a big chance that much. We conceded from a set piece, so that confirms we still have work to do on that side, but 1-0 down, still all to play for. We have to fight, we have to deserve it. We have to earn the next round. Next week, obviously, is the decider. We're at home, but we have to show what we want and deserve to go through. First and foremost, in the way we play, defend and attack. I don't want to blame anything, but we made some individual mistakes. We lost the ball in positions where we shouldn't, and then obviously with pace and directness they have, they could look dangerous. But hang on a minute. You said that they only scored from a set piece, Virgil. Now all of a sudden they're looking dangerous with the pace that they have. Which one is it? Did we give up chances, or was it just a set piece? He's going down the Arne Slot route here of talking absolute garbage. It doesn't reflect what we seen last night, because I'm going to read you out some of what the newspapers had to say, and it very, very much differs from what Virgil's had to say here. I feel like we didn't give away a big chance that much. We conceded from a set piece, and we lost 1-0. So again, not scathing enough, Virgil. Scathing of some individual errors, but not scathing enough of exactly how poor we were. So, I mentioned some of those newspaper articles. Well, here's a little flavour of what a couple of papers have had to say about Liverpool's performance last night. The Telegraph, well, they wrote this. For nearly a decade, Liverpool have leaned on Mohamed Salah. When in need of inspiration, here he was hopelessly on the peripheral. He appears entirely unable to be the fullback, and it's striking to see a player with such potential, fresh off a spectacular season, looking so diminished. Salah had become effective in games where he played for Chelsea. Salah had more effective games when he played for Chelsea. He was substituted correctly after an hour for Jeremy Frimpong, signed to play at right back. When Arne Slot dropped Salah in November, it caused a diplomatic crisis on Merseyside, culminating in Salah saying he'd been thrown under the bus. Performances like this are as helpful as comments like those, but he was hardly alone in under-delivering. It was a harrowing night in particular for Ibrahima Konate. Goes on to write in The Times, this is what The Times had to say about it, and this, I think, really sums it up. Liverpool are playing purgatorial football, and their fans are condemned to watching the same insipid game every week. The only question is whether there will be some sort of salvation after all of this. none looks forthcoming, not least because there were few, if any, redeeming features to this performance beyond the single goal deficit that Liverpool must hope they can overturn in the second leg at Anfield. In hostile conditions, Liverpool wilted. They had chances, but the Champions League necessitates playing with grit or verve, and Arne Slot's team had neither. So as you can see, the journalists, the media, they're equally as scathing as us Liverpool fans were with yet another underperforming game from the Reds last night. So Daniel Sturridge, on hearing about Liverpool's loss to Galatasaray, said this: "That's a surprise, isn't it?" To which Wayne Rooney said, "Is it?" And he's right. It isn't a surprise anymore. As I've said, 16 losses in Arne's last 50. 14, I think 15 losses now. 14 or 15 losses this season. I think it's 14 actually, this season alone. That's unacceptable for any Liverpool manager. Steve McManaman, speaking about Liverpool last night, said, they were also really vulnerable at the back, which I haven't seen for a while. Anything that went into the penalty area, they looked as if they were going to concede. He's not wrong, but I think the highlight of last night of most of our ire and frustration was aimed at Mohamed Salah, who was completely anonymous out there. Like I said, he wasn't on his own, but it does stand out when Mo was as poor as he was. Steve Nicol, well, he slammed Mohamed Salah's recent performances, saying this: he does absolutely nothing for the team. He needs to get dropped again. Did he just say, right, Frimpong starting, Aringamoa starting, and Salah, you're sitting? It actually is at this stage where anything would be better. So again, scathing from Steve Nicol, but to be fair, that's all he seems to have these days. I don't really remember too much of a way of constructive criticism, just criticism. But he's not wrong on this occasion, is he? Mohamed Salah, we ran through some of the numbers, was just so ineffective last night, as was our midfield, and I don't want those to get off lightly. I thought Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai all need to brush things up, because they were ineffective yet again. Not enough tackling, not enough duels won, just not good enough all around the park. So let's talk about Alisson for a minute, ladies and gentlemen, because there's been a couple of links to a move to Juventus. But don't forget, Liverpool will be triggering a one-year extension, which will mean he'll be at the club for at least one more season. This report said Liverpool are determined to keep Alisson despite interest from Juventus. The Reds want the Brazilian goalkeeper to stay at Anfield until the end of his contract in 2027 and are not planning to sanction a departure. Now, let's talk about that midfield again. Dominik Szoboszlai, somebody who has rightly been praised far and wide this season for his very good performances in that Liverpool midfield. Well, Liverpool's midfield three won just 37% of their ground duels versus Galatasaray. It might be time for something new. 11 out of 27 ground duels won. That's how poor this midfield have been. And I've been talking about it for a very long time on the channel, talking about how there's just no guile in that midfield, no fight in that midfield, and you could drive an articulated lorry through the middle of it. There's just too many spaces, we're too open, and it's too easy to play through us. We need to sort this out. So, this bit of breaking news coming from Bill. They say Germany are considering Jurgen Klopp. They say for the 2026 World Cup, but I think they mean for after the 2026 World Cup. Julian Nagelsmann could be on his way out of Germany as national team manager, they write. The piece goes on to say, since Jurgen Klopp took over the position as Red Bull's head of global soccer in January 2025, speculation has swirled over potential return to coaching. While the Borussia Dortmund and Liverpool former coach had mainly been linked with Real Madrid in recent months, Sport Bild reports there was a more realistic chance of the 58-year-old replacing Julian Nagelsmann as Germany head coach this summer. According to the report, despite Nagelsmann's contract running until 2028, this possibility is increasingly being discussed within Red Bull and is considered very plausible. Klopp's agent, Mark Kosicka, recently confirmed that the German Football Association has inquired several times and suggested that his client might find it difficult to turn down the opportunity to coach his country. And look, I think that's kind of what many of us would have had in our minds. If Jurgen did come back into coaching, it would most likely be to the German national team. It was very difficult to envision him going back to the day-to-day hustle and bustle of club football. So a move with the German national team seems pretty much more likely to me, ladies and gentlemen. But look, I didn't get much sleep last night. I don't know about you guys, but I'm still fuming about that performance. It just didn't sit well with me, because we knew what we were walking into. We knew what to expect. We'd been over there earlier in the season. and yet we still looked so unprepared to walk into that environment. Galatasaray started shakily, and the chance was there for us to quieten down that home crowd, but we just didn't take it. Now we know what we have to do next Wednesday, but don't forget, Spurs Sunday at Anfield. Surely that's 3 points. Surely that's 3 points, lads. Will their head coach be fired beforehand? We'll let you know on that one this evening, because it's looking like it could very well happen to Mr. Tudor. So, ladies and gents, remember, tonight, 9 p.m, late night agenda. We'll see you then. Much love.